everyone, and welcome back to A Conversation with Kez. I'm your host, Tony Lonis, and shortly the wonderful Kez Wickham St. George will be joining me. But welcome back after Christmas. This is our first show for the new year, and in February we will be doing a little bit of a switcheroo and changing the show name to the Author and Artists Hour. But in the meantime, while we get ready for that launch, we're still A Conversation with Kez, and we're still talking to wonderful, amazing authors from across the planet. Now, if you're listening live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch and Twitter, see, I'm rusty after the holidays. We have Payo ready and waiting online to answer and respond to your comments and questions and provide you with the links to everything that we talk about on the show today, particularly the connection to Kez and to our amazing guest. If you're not listening to this show, you can also catch replays on Binge Networks TV USA, the Tony TV app on all Roku, LG and Samsung TVs across the planet. And you can also catch us on YouTube when we stream live. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to build our YouTube subscribers across the planet in 2022. Now, this show is co-hosted by the gorgeous Kez Wickham St. George, who is an international best-selling author in her own right. And besides that, she is now embarking on a bit of a movie career, and she's publishing more books. And in her spare time, she helps people write amazing books with her coaching and consulting services. Now, each week we talk to authors, and our author today is no different. Lindy Jelliman published her book Tinker Tailor's Toolbox for Mending Broken Hearts last year, and she's passionate about kids' mental health. The book is about a boy called Tinker who so desperately wants to help his sister Emily-Belle, a beautiful name for a girl in a children's book, by the way, through a traumatic life event and doesn't quite know where to start. He convinces her to let him help her set up a Happiness Toolbox, which she uses to come back to a place of happiness again. The book is presented as a children's picture book, and it can be read and enjoyed by all ages. Lindy uses it as a mental health wellbeing resource for kids aged 5 to 105. So not just kids, but adults as well. The story comes with a Happiness Toolbox activity at the back of the book and works best as a parent or teacher-guided activity, working together as a family or indeed as a class. She has also gone on to produce another book, which we'll talk about later in the show. But Lindy also illustrated the book herself using watercolour pencils. And I'm hoping that she has a book we can show you later in the show. And she's done this as a self-funded project via her company, Shine Anything Bright Press. Another great name for a publishing house, don't you think? Now, Lindy's also on the show because she wrote a chapter in the Colours of Me anthology, our best-selling anthology, with which both Kez and I were involved with last year, and her chapter in the book was called Letter from the Lucky One. A quote from the book we'd like to highlight today is, "Promise me," Tinker said. "Take your toolbox far and wide. Help other people mend their hearts so they can be strong inside." That's a beautiful quote from the book. Welcome to the show, Lindy. Good morning, Kez. How are you both?
We are wonderful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
We are delighted to have you on the show, Lindy. And before we jumped on live, we were having a little bit of a chat about the virus situation in Australia and what's playing out at the moment. Now, Lindy and I are both in Queensland and bemoaning the fact that since the borders are opened, we have that delightful little virus everywhere. And I don't mean to make light of it. However, I think we really need to laugh in the face of disaster almost, because Queensland's gone from relatively wonderful freedom to thinking, well, I might not just go to that party, I might just stay home. And from Lindy's perspective, the kids aren't going back to school straight away. So,
That's
Lindy,
right.
another 2 weeks.
Another 2 weeks, but I've got it all under control. I have a wonderful friend that acts as vacation care to my kids, so she's extending, and then I'm taking a week holiday. So got it covered.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's my first thought. By the time you get to, as a parent, and I've been there, by the time you get to week 5 of a 6-week school break, you're ready for them to go back to school yesterday. So when it was announced they were delaying the start of the school year, I'm like, oh my God, the mothers out there will be screaming. So I'm so glad that you've got some plans in place, Lindy, and I'm actually going to welcome you to the show and hand over to the delightful Kez to start off our interview today. It's wonderful to have you here, Lindy, and over to you, Kezi.
Thank you.
And
Thank
Lindy,
you,
how are you
Tony.
going? You all good?
Thanks, Kez. Yeah, how are you?
Oh, it's so hot. We're having another heat wave, and it's like there's fans on throughout the house. We don't get the humidity you guys get, but I remember living in New Zealand, and the humidity there was shocking. Anyway, it's dry, it's hot, I'm over it. I just want to sit in a big pool of cold water and have this interview, but that's not possible.
Well, it could be.
You can hear a lot of splashing as people joined me, no doubt. Now, Lindy, we're here to discuss your new book. But I believe it's been out for a wee while, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, actually, the first one was actually published in 2020. So, and then the second one. So the first one was Tinker Tailor's Toolbox for Mending Broken Hearts.
Yay!
So that was published in 2020. And then I published the book that accompanies it, which is Tinker's Toolbox. So what that does really is it makes setting up a happiness toolbox super quick and easy and simple and fun. So, yes.
I haven't seen them before, but I actually read what you sent me last night, and I just love them. I just thought, how clever. How clever.
Thank you.
I could actually see that, the little badges you've made to go with that, little buttons like the happiness button, the gratitude button. I could see them as little badges being worn on people's shirts, and it wouldn't be too bad for adults to wear them as well. Even if, how would you feel? We saw one of your happiness buttons. You're walking down the street and there's an adult wearing a happiness or a gratitude or a thank you button. And
that'd be great.
You got to remember that we may have this virus all around the country, and it is nasty, but we still have to be grateful that the three of us are speaking today, and we are well, we are healthy, and the virus is out there, and I'm in here. I'd rather be in a pool, as I said, but I'm in here talking to you guys. So what I wanted to ask you about was, I met you through The Colours of Me when I invited you to join us. I loved your story. I really did.
Oh, thank you.
It was, I said, in my questions I wrote, it was quite traumatic for me to read. But how did that story, after you'd written it, how did it make you feel that you'd actually lived it, written about it, and then was it done, or is it still just a memory that comes up and annoys you?
It was very cathartic to write it. I have dealt with those things, I feel. So but obviously when I sat down and penned it all the emotions all came up again. But I've worked on myself a lot, and so I really feel that whilst it's all part of my history, I have recovered from the traumas, but I just try to let them inform my life, and they've, for everything that I've lived through and lived through with my mum and my family, everything has made me stronger, and everything has made me more grateful for what I have. So whilst it was horrible to go through those things, I feel like they have shaped my life and made me a stronger and more compassionate person. So yes, have I answered the question?
Yes, you have, beautifully.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think that if we can remember the trauma, but look upon it as the past and the healing that's gone on in the future, and we'll carry to go on. Hang on, that came out wrong. We'll carry on, not carry to go on. We'll carry on. It's a healing thing, isn't it? But we don't have to call it. I think once we get through the trauma, we literally regurgitate it and put it onto paper. I don't think the feeling is as strong, and that's the healing part of things, you know. And you've also now in the position that if someone else has that problem, that they can come to you and say, hey, how did you do it? You know, because I had that happen to me. I've had trauma, and Tony's had trauma. And at my age, I now have people coming to me and saying, what did you do? Well, I sat back and I thought, boy, I'm so grateful for the life I've got now. Because who would have thought? I mean, 20 years ago, I would never have thought I'd be talking on Tony Radio. I never had any idea, and none of us do what's going to happen in the future. None of us have got crystal balls, but I think
that's right.
the book you've written, I really do think the book you've written for the children is such a huge learning tool for them. I really do. What about you, Tony?
Thank you.
Yeah, when I was reading about Lindy in preparation for this interview, wanted to ask you, Lindy, how do you feel about sharing that story with the audience? Only because it shows the depth and growth that you've had being on the other side of that trauma. Do you feel open to sharing that? Because it really did affect your life.
I am open to sharing that. I did publish it under a pen name because at the time I was a bit skeptical, and I wanted to protect, I suppose, my family from anything. But I don't think there is anything to protect. It is my story. It is what happened. And the reason why I wrote it was for anyone to read it, if they'd gone through something similar, just to realize that you can overcome. I mean, I'm the happiest I've ever been, and I've been through some pretty tricky situations. So, I am pleased that I have written it, and I'm more than happy to share.
Yeah. And it is that idea, and Kez and I often talk about this because we've both had trauma in our lives. And the thing is that once you actually share or talk about that trauma, it ceases to have power over your life. Whilst it's secret and not talked about and not in the open, that's where the problems live, and that's where people don't get over trauma, is where they don't talk about it, and not necessarily write about it, but in the writing about the trauma, that helps so many other people go, oh, okay, I'm not alone. Other people have suffered. They do get through it. The pain ceases, and it just becomes like a scar that yes, you've been there, done that, the scar remains, but you actually, on the other side of trauma, life is often much better than you ever thought it could be, isn't it, Lindy?
Absolutely. As I said, I am really the happiest I've ever been, and my life is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
I think it's just everything, the traumas I have lived through have really made me a very grateful and present person.
Yes.
And, yes, I am happy. Yes, they have definitely made me stronger and happier in a way I couldn't have imagined.
I also see that you've become a poet. When did this happen?
I'll try my hand at anything, Kes.
Oh, good for you. I do too, actually.
Yes, she does. She does indeed.
I've been writing on and off little snippets since I was 13. So when I got a nudge to contribute something to the globalization anthology, I thought, oh, I'll have a go. And
who was that published by?
That was published by, it's a book compiled by Kelly Van Nelson.
Oh, Kelly, right.
Oh, yeah.
And published by MMH Press. So that also came
out. Who else would publish it? that name's very famous.
So that came out. That came out last year.
Yes, I have a copy of that. Yeah, but I didn't. Were you writing under your pen name then? I didn't see your name in the book.
I wrote under Lindy Jelliman.
Yeah, that's why I don't pick it up.
And the poem was called Gaia's Lament. So it was basically the earth appealing to her children, us, to live in harmony with her. So it was a joy to write.
Yes, yeah. So now you're a poet. You've actually put something into the anthology that a friend of mine, a co-author of mine, and we put together. So you're well and truly published author, aren't you? And now this beautiful children's book. And it just, reading it yesterday, because I talked to a lot of children's authors, reading your book yesterday really sort of, it took me back. I love watching how people relate to kids. And your book was certainly relatable. Certainly was.
Thank you.
Yeah, the toolbox is amazing.
Thank you so much. So it's really just a starting point. So a person can have their own toolbox, but it's just a starting point. So it could be like a conversation started with families about where do you start with working on your mental health, and just to build from there. So, yeah.
I'm so glad that there are authors like yourself writing from the mental health perspective of children, so that it's becoming part of a childhood conversation rather than an adult conversation, so that they grow up thinking my mental health is important and I need to protect it just like my body health.
That's right. It's just
very
as important. Equally important.
It is,
yeah, for sure. And
so
I'm
Lindy,
very pleased.
Yeah. How does tell the audience? Excuse me. How does the book work with the toolbox book? Now that was what I found interesting. How would you expect a young child between 2 upwards to put it together?
Okay, so the first book is just a story, so that can be read in a classroom or with a parent. And then at the back, it's a very, very basic guide as to how to set up a happiness toolbox. So I just
look at that.
Yeah.
Just to find the bit at the back. It's very basic. It's only about 2 to 3 pages, and what I found is that a lot of people were reading the book, but not actually doing the activity. So I thought, well, how can I make this super, super easy? So that's the instructions on how to make it. But so I thought I'll make it super easy, and just because I had put a website together with lots of resources. So what you got now in this book is just everything is there. So all you need is a box and stationery that you have at home and a few stickers. And if you're a teacher, you can photocopy these and for the whole class, and they can each set up their own toolbox. If you're a parent, I mean, you can do that as well, or you can let the child just cut it straight out the book and stick it on the toolbox. And I'm meant to say you also need a couple of journals. So there's a gratitude journal, there's a happiness, there's a happy book, there's a happiness project planner. So you can take this as far as you want to go, or just keep it very, very simple with just a few of your your favorite tools just put in there. and customize it to what you like. So they're just very easy to put together. You pretty much cut it out, paste it, and there's a lot of little templates there, bucket list, all sorts of things. So yeah, it makes it super quick and easy.
That's it. And you just
Lindy
mentioned a project planner for
a happiness.
Yeah,
it's a happiness project planner. So that's for the super keen people. So if you think, oh well, the couple of projects I've done have been fun. How what else can I do? How far I can take it? So you just put it together. I'll just get to that page. So where are we? Here we go. So that's what goes on the front of the journal, Happiness Project Planner. And then there's just a few project ideas there that you can copy.
Lovely.
So a couple of them, a family conversation jar, 100 acts of kindness project, happy thoughts jar, happiness playlist, resilience playlist, calm playlist. So it's just suggestions. Calm down kits, happiness reading list, conversation, quick challenge cards. There's all sorts of things. There's a love language test.
I like that. Yeah.
Dream board conversations. There's all sorts of things that sort of extend what the toolbox has. And then there's a template where you can just plan. So you just decide which one you want to do, and then you make a plan and sit with your family and kind of talk about the steps you need to take. Yeah, so that was that one.
Amazing.
Fantastic. It's so well planned out, Linda. There's you've put a lot of thought into it. I was reading them last night on screen, and I just thought, I read a children's book. It wasn't that detailed, but when you think what you've put into this time, the time and the beautiful artwork, it's just worth buying the book for the artwork. They're just gorgeous. Yeah, no, they're lovely. They really are lovely.
Thank you.
It's a gentle flow. It's not demanding. Some books are done by rote, especially children's books. I have found, and being an ex-teacher, I was taught by rote. So when I got my teacher's degree and walked into a classroom, the first thing I wanted to do was teach by rote, and I had to sort of knock that to the sideways and realize these are many different people with many different minds. And that's what your book is encouraging, is using the brain the way the child wants to, not demanding or by rote. And I just think you've done a fabulous job. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, well done, Lindy. And speaking of childhood, you actually grew up in South Africa, and we have so many ex-South Africans living in Australia, and they bring such a rich diversity to Australia. But it's a long way from a childhood in South Africa to suburban Brisbane life. What was the shift like for you, Lindy?
Well, there's been several shifts. So I was actually born in Zimbabwe. So whilst I got married in South Africa, Zimbabwe is just the country right above South Africa. So that's where I was raised, and that's what I have written about in the story, Letters from the Lucky One and the Colors of Me. But so my first shift was at age 21. I moved to London, and I lived there for 12 years with my husband, who's also from Zimbabwe. And then my second shift was to Brisbane in 2008. So it was a bit of a stepping stone. But had I gone straight from Zimbabwe to Australia, there are so many similarities. We even have the same trees. We've got jacaranda, and the beautiful, the poincianas and all of that, and similar climate as well. So it would have been a very easy jump from Zimbabwe to Brisbane. My brother did that jump pretty much because he married a girl from far north Queensland, and they settled in Brisbane, which is why we ended up here. But the shift from London to here,
that's a big one.
It's a big one because we spent so long there, and we had lots of friends and family. So it was hard, but we made the decision for our, at the time, unborn children, because we just wanted something similar to what we had growing up in terms of climate and open spaces and that sort of thing. So we absolutely love living in Brisbane. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. And although I grew up on a big farm and I had so much space to roam, and I'm now in this tiny little suburban house, it's still, there are so many lovely places to go and lots of open spaces. And I just love the lifestyle here. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Very grateful.
It's kind of Brisbane's relaxed and pretty easygoing, really.
Yeah, it's a great place, a wonderful community.
I can imagine that South Africa would be stunning as well. I have never been to South Africa, but I have many South African friends, actually, many over here in Perth, and they've shown me photos of their home country.
It's beautiful.
It's stunning. It really is. I mean, when I come from a volcanic country, which is New Zealand, so our sand is grey or black. We don't have white or gold sand. So I first landed here in WA, and I was gobsmacked at coming to Rockingham and seeing the pale beaches and the palm trees in the Asia Sea. And then I see photos of South Africa. So it would have been the same for you. It would have been the beautiful blonde beaches.
Well, in South Africa, so we'd have to travel for there, because we'd have to travel south. So Zimbabwe itself, which used to be Southern Rhodesia, is a landlocked country.
Yes.
But my dad had a caravan, and our family had a caravan, and we used to go on these amazing caravan holidays down to South Africa, to the Transkei, which was just these incredible sweeping white sandy beaches, and I've just got such wonderful memories of that. It was just amazing.
Yes, yeah.
A bit of a drive to get there, but it was really
well, I mean, that's what they say on Australia. It's called wait a while, and over here at WA, because it takes us so long to get anywhere. It's a huge drive. It really is. Go down to the local shops and you pack a lunch. It's just a big drive anywhere. It really is. Yeah. Look, I'm just looking at your story that you put into the colours of me. We're going to switch tracks back to the colours of me.
Yep.
And at the end of your story, you've got, with so much gratitude, your ever loving Lindy we Nalala. What is Nalala?
Okay, I'll read that in. Let me get to it. Lindy and Tlatla, which means basically the lucky one.
Right.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And is that as like, what would you call the language in South Africa?
So
is it Afrikaans?
The South African language is Zulu. So the African language is Zulu. But so that was north of South Africa. But south of Zimbabwe, which is where I grew up, just above South Africa, just there, and that language then changed from Zulu to Indebele. But so I grew up trying to learn how to speak the language. So I got as far as saying, it's such a beautiful language, but I never actually learned it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's as far as I got.
Yeah. Now, when I read your story,
I love the language. It's so musical and beautiful, and the people were just gorgeous, just wonderful, resilient people, beautiful. I'm very and always have been inspired, particularly by African women, because they're just they're the strongest people I've ever met, and and they had what inspired me about growing up there, and they had so little, but we're grateful for so much. So great inspiration.
Yeah, I in my travels, I've come across quite a few Zimbabweans, and I found the woman there are tall and stately, and they dress beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, the ones I have actually met, and I never visited the country, but the ones I've met when I have been traveling, there's something about them, isn't there? There's just something about them that you want to think, oh, I want some of the charisma, because I look upon myself as I'm a Kiwi Aussie, and Tony's an Australian, and we're very relaxed and very casual. It's like, yeah, mate. But it's some of the women I've met from Zimbabwe itself are just they're full of grace. Yeah. And the way they walk and they hold themselves, it's amazing. They're like little models. I just they're amazing. So well done growing up there and trying to learn the language. Some of my friends from South Africa. I
didn't get very far.
Oh, well, you learned something. I mean, I know a little bit of Maori.
It sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it did. It's musical. Yeah. Imagine all the different countries, all the different languages that are spoken in South Africa is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how many there are. There's so many, and but they're beautiful. My favorite is the Zulu and the Ndebele, which is my region of my birth. Was Matabele.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I really wanted to ask you that question, what that meant. Now I know. I'll never be able to say it correctly, but I can hear it in my brain. Yeah,
it's hard to say. You got to put wind. You got to say it in slash. So it's like you put wind between your teeth.
Okay.
Well,
I'll practice it after the show. I won't embarrass myself.
I mean, no one actually calls me that. It was just I just thought it was a nice way to sign off the story, because that's what I feel in my soul.
Yes.
That's the language of the origin of my birth. But I just feel, despite everything, all the things that have happened in my life, I just feel so incredibly lucky. I mean, I was born into such an amazing family. My mom was just the most wonderful woman I've ever met, and so I have always and still do feel very lucky. And I think I did actually mention something in the story about how there was a phrase that I've grown up with, and that was as a result from my near drowning incident when I was 18 months old. So I was given, when in the story I talk about 3 traumas. So the first, so I talk about there's the drowning. I'll do it in the right order. The drowning, the attack, and the accident. So the drowning was when I was 18 months old, and we were staying at a hotel in the Guai River region, which is near Bulawayo, which is the capital city in the south of the country in Zimbabwe. And long story short, I fell into the swimming pool, but they didn't have pool fences in those days. And so by my calculation, or my family's calculations, I was face down for about 10 minutes. And then they gave me I was given mouth to mouth for 15 minutes. So by all accounts, I shouldn't be here today. And but what my mum said, she'd tell me when no one was around or listening, and she'd say, I know people will think I'm mad, Poop. She used to call me Poop, not my favorite name, but because she called it me.
Oh, we all get names.
I love it.
Yeah.
She said, I know people wouldn't believe me, Poop, but you died. You died. And I prayed, and you were given back to me. And
Beautiful.
So you are so lucky to be here, and we are so lucky to have you. And I feel so grateful to have been raised on those 2 sentences, because I have always felt so lucky to be here, and and so appreciated, because my family have always made me feel like that they are so lucky to have me. So
beautiful.
And it's been and I will be writing a children's book based on that on that experience, because I want every child to feel that they are so lucky to be here, and the world is so lucky to have them.
Maybe we should write a book on the parents being grateful for the children. Yes. Well, it's certainly needed. It's, when I see some of the reactions at the mall, which I very rarely go to, but it's like, please read a happy book, so it puts you in a better mood. So, especially now school's been extended, everybody's going eek. So So you're
Lindy,
sorry, Tony.
I was just going to say there's a really special reason why you started into writing children's books. Can you tell the audience about that? It's a special story.
Okay, so the reason I started writing was I hadn't really dealt with my traumas, and then motherhood came with its own adventures, which landed on top of that. And the result of that was I got very ill in 2014-15. And so through different types of therapy and I was just trying different things, lifestyle choices, I started to write. And the story, Tailor's Toolbox, it was just great healing for me just to write. And that's what I recommend anyone that's going through a tough time, find your creative outlet, because it really is very healing to be able to do that. And so then the story was inspired by my niece Ellie, who that's another story. She had she had an acquired brain injury, and I just really wanted to help her. She had some mental health issues surrounding that, and she's just such a beautiful girl. And I just felt so helpless that I couldn't help her. So the toolbox kind of came out of that. It was my contribution, I guess, to I'm thinking of you, I don't know what to do, and this is a story that's been inspired by you. So, and so she's very happy that I dedicated the book to her.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book, and that's a lovely story.
Thank you.
And as Tony asked, did it, your writing adventure, it's obviously worked healing you.
Absolutely. And I just started writing about everything, and then I've just, I suppose, drawn to the children, because I've always loved kids and I've got kids of my own, and I just thought everything that I've learned through different traumas, there's little things that I've learned that can make a big difference. So and that can be applied to childhood. And I wish I had tools when I was little to be more resilient and whatnot. So so it was great. It was just wonderful to find that outlet, and that it helped me with my healing. Yes, it's a wonderful discovery.
It is, yeah. I know the feeling. I'm writing a book myself. It's my book, my story, and the things that have come up, and I think I'd forgotten all about that particular feeling, or that. And you know, the thing is, I find when I'm writing, I find that the writing, as I get more aggro about the situation, my writing gets faster. It's just about steam coming off the keyboard. I stayed up till midnight last night trying to finish off the chapter, and I thought, I wonder if anyone else feels like this. I'm writing, and I was really angry about the situation, but I actually felt the anger again. I'd gotten over it, but the anger it remembered me. It remembered my body. It just was like my fingers were flying, but when I reread it, it was absolute nonsense. I thought, well, that's going to be tossed out. So, when you've your story and the cause of me was very deep. Well done for going in there, opening that door. Yeah, it's a big thing.
Thank you so much.
And Tony, you've written a book, Resilience.
Yes, this shows about Lindy's experience, but yes, just the writing about the trauma is something that is not just cathartic for the writer, but it should also be helpful for the person that reads it. And sometimes in the writing of the trauma, you'll encounter people who read the book who haven't done their own healing. So their response to what you write can be quite negative. And that's simply because of their own unhealed trauma in their own lives. And so it took me quite a while to realize that that would be the case. And it was a lesson in empathy, understanding, and a further lesson in healing and trauma, and how it doesn't always play out to a certain time frame. And there will be people that pass without the healing from the trauma that they needed to heal from, and that's a sad thing, which, like, it brings me back to your book, Lindy, and that desire to circumvent some of the damage that can be caused by unhealed trauma, because I know from research that trauma in itself doesn't necessarily have to be damaging, but it becomes damaging or harmful, if you like, if it's not dealt with, or you don't work through those processes. So, you know, it's a two-pronged thing, and I'm wondering what the response you received from your chapter in The Colours of Me.
Well, I haven't asked an awful lot of people, but the people close to me that read it, most of them cried. Especially so my brother, for instance, because he didn't realise the extent of the mental health issues that went along with it, because I did suffer in silence. So there were three parts that I talked about. There were three traumas. So the first one was the drowning. That actually was, in a way, a blessing in my life, but came with its own issues. So fear of water, some potential. There was an acquired brain injury found many years ago, and I think it was from that. So it would have impacted learning and emotion.
Absolutely.
So the second trauma was when I was 3, our house got attacked in the sort of the guerrilla war that was happening in Richmond against Mugabe, and so that still remains in the form of fear, extreme fear of lightning. So because after the attack, every time there was a lightning storm, I would just run under my bed because I thought it would be an attack. But the trauma that's really stayed with me the most, I suppose, was at the age of 19, my car accident. And then the subsequent court case with sort of fighting the Zimbabwean legal system. That was probably the biggest, because when you have been responsible for the ending of a human life, you never really get over that. I mean, I've worked through it, but how can I say?
It stays with you, though.
It does stay with you, and but I have made at the same time, I have made my peace with it, because I had to, for my own sanity.
Of course.
So on that note of that has had the biggest impact on my life, is that, and having to kind of stand up for myself and fight the legal system at the age of 19. It was pretty confronting.
Especially at that age too.
I was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. There's nothing I could have done. There was a very old man who just stepped in front of the road, and I hit him, and he died. So that was pretty full on. But it taught me so much about myself. It just went into such an introspection, and yes, it wasn't great, and I had some big mental health issues many years after that. But I feel coming out of all that, the whole experience really shaped me and taught me really who I wanted to be. And so...
Isn't it weird how that happens, Linda? It's the trauma teaches you who you want to be. You sort of come out of it, you think, well, I'll try this. And I'm very proud of you for coming this far and writing the story. And
Thank you so much.
writing a children's story and writing a children's toolbook. Maybe you should write an adult toolbook as well.
Yeah, I think I will. I did start.
Linda,
one, and I will finish it. But I definitely have started it because there were amazing things that happened in Zimbabwe. I mean, it was such a unique way of growing up, and I still have such a love of the country and the wildlife. I had so many unique wildlife experiences. So there's a lot to say still.
Lindy, do you outside of a global pandemic, do you get back to country very often?
Do I get back to?
Do you get back to South Africa and Zimbabwe very often?
No.
Outside of a global pandemic?
Personally, I haven't. My husband has, because I don't have family left there. My family moved to New Zealand. So New Zealand, New Zealand.
That's easier. Australia. That's much easier.
So that is much easier. But my husband ordinarily would be seeing his family a lot more. So that's for us, and I would be seeing my dad a lot more. So for us, that's been the hardest thing from the pandemic, not being able to see our parents and our siblings, particularly, for me, I mean, obviously hard for Gary and his family, but for me, I lost my mum in 2020 from Alzheimer's. So I wasn't able to go to her funeral, and Dad hasn't been able to be with his family, with us. He's got my brother who lives in Christchurch, but he hasn't been able to be with his other two children. So that's been really hard for him. So,
but New Zealand's closer to get to anyway, isn't it?
I know, yes, and I'm very grateful for that. And I just look forward to us being able to do that very soon.
Oh, the bubble will be back up soon. You'll be able to come.
Don't know when, but
It'll be, it won't be too far
sometime soon, hopefully.
Who knows what's going to happen?
No, we don't.
We keep saying that. We said that, at the end of 2020, we said it again last year, and then bang, look where we are now. So I just thinking, well, what will be, and hopefully one day we'll be able to travel in a way that's, relatively safe for people to travel. Before we run out of time, Lindy, can you tell people the best place to get your book and how they can connect with you?
Oh, okay. Well, the first book is on Amazon, so that will be the easiest place to get it. So I think it's Tailor's Toolbox for Mending Broken Hearts is on Amazon. I did release the next one. I'm self-published, and I had lots of things going on last year, so I released it quite quickly. And it appears up on most of the other websites, but not Amazon. But it comes on Fish Pond, Booktopia, most of the other book retailers. So, and I will be popping there is an ebook for the first one, and there's one coming for this one, which will make it great because you just download the ebook and then just print it, and you can then photocopy it, use it in a classroom, and so yes.
And Lindy, are they available on your website?
They are available on my website. Both of them are available, and that my website is lindyjelliman.com, and I also have Facebook and Instagram pages under that name as well.
Okay. And you encourage people to reach out and talk to you about your children's books in particular, and or The Colours of Me. Kez, we should probably mention Kez, where can people get The Colours of Me, which has Lindy's chapter in it?
Oh, MMH Press has them. They can reach out to Lindy, and she can buy them through MMH Press and send them on, or they can just apply to MMH Press. It's on Amazon as well, and it's on is it Goodreads, and it's on Booktopia.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was just going to say
Any of
usually
those
Amazon
places, yeah.
Booktopia.
But, you know, and any
Yeah.
advice to the listeners is, if you want to have a little bit of a chat to Lindy and find out how, where, and why, it's always nice to contact the author. And
I was going to say, authors are pretty good at talking to people who are interested in writing or interested in their own books. And Lindy, I'm guessing that with your own publishing house, you'll continue to publish your own books as well.
Absolutely. I've got so many that I have either started writing or just have an idea that I want to write. And so I'll be tackling a couple of projects this year. There's so many to choose from. I'm not exactly sure, but with my experience as a mum, I am very interested in and passionate about kids and advocating for neurodiversity. Both my kids have additional needs in some way, shape, or form. So neurodiversity is something close to my heart. So I really am hoping to get 2 books out this year in that genre.
Well done. Well done. Which is not helped by kids not going back to school just yet.
That's right. To put it all on hold, or just write 5 minutes at a time.
Well, yeah. Linda, do you think that you'll write any more adult books? Or is your children's books your absolute love?
I think children's books are my first love, because they are, for one thing, they're quicker to write. Yes. But I think with the adult books, you can really delve into important issues and, make people feel like they're not alone, which I love.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I'm not sure when my first solo adult book will come out, but it'll be there. Yeah. It's just a matter of
sometime
time.
down the track.
Well, before we go, don't forget to send me those books so I can do some PR with them.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, I will definitely do that. I just wanted to say, actually, my first adult book will probably be the memoir of my mum.
Yes,
so my mother had, as I said, Alzheimer's, and her name was Bundi because she was out of 5 children. She was the first child to be born in the bundu, in the bush. So she got this nickname, Bundi. So that stuck. Her real name was Cynthia, very posh, and didn't really suit her. So Bundi stuck, and she's an absolute legend. And but she ended up getting Alzheimer's, and so the book's called Unforgettably Bundi.
Okay,
beautiful. Play on words.
Oh,
but,
beautiful.
I don't know when that'll be out, but I've got got the bones of it, but I'm not sure when that'll be out. But watch this space.
So look at you, through all the trauma to a shining star. Well done.
Thank you.
Lovely, ladies. Lindy, thank you so much. We are out of time already. I can't believe the first show has gone so quickly. Lindy, number one, thank you for sharing with us your journey and your beautiful children's books. I encourage everyone to jump on to Lindy Jelliman, JELLIMAN.com, and check out Lindy and her work there. Kaz Wickham St. George, is my privilege to host this show with you each and every week, and as I mentioned, Kez and I will be transitioning to a new show, same time, similar content, but we're just going to revamp things a little bit into 2022. And if you're an author out there listening to this program, please connect with Kez or I and ask about being on the show. And if you're an artist, we would absolutely love to talk to you. Lindy Jelliman, thank you so much for your time and telling us about your books. Kez Wickham St. George, I can't wait to talk to you later in the week. And that, my friends, is your lot for this week. We will see you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.